Greetings, and welcome back to Pseudo's journey through the Japanese air tech tree in War Thunder, a series of subpar guides made for unskilled free-to-play players by an unskilled free-to-play player. Today, we shall be hazarding a bit of a different style of review compared to my last view. We're actually going to be covering all 4 different variants of the Ki-45 in this video. These are a set of 4 aircraft ranging from battle ratings 1.7 to 2.7 in the third line of the Japanese air tech tree. 2 of these planes are foldered under other variants. If you are not aware of what foldered vehicles are, these are optionally unlockable vehicles that first require the first vehicle in the folder to be unlocked before they can be researched, but are not required to be researched to research further planes in the tech tree. Due to more recent changes, the RP costs of foldered vehicles are half of what their initial RP cost was, making them quicker to unlock than a typical vehicle. Alright, let's go over some quick notes before we get started. The video will be broken up into 6 sections, one detailing the similarities and generals of all the variants, one detailing each different Ki-45 variant, and then the final modifications and remarks section. Despite all the Ki-45s having the same aircraft designation, they all function remarkably differently in their roles in-game. These are honestly some of the most interesting aircraft I've played in-game to date due to how slight little differences can make each one feel almost like its entire own plane. Another quick thing to note that will be important up until the end of Japanese propeller aircraft in the tech tree is the designations Ko, Otsu, Hei, and Te. These are designations that simply mean A model, B model, C model, and D model, respectively. I use the bad acronym COAT, spelled K-O-H-T, to remember the order of the models. Lastly, a massive thanks to all the people who interacted on the War Thunder forums post I made who explained more about this plane. A massive thanks especially to Bruce_R1, who gave a magnificent history lesson on the Ki-45 variants and explained why they all function the way they do. I'll possibly remember to link it in the description if you want to read it. Onto the actual video. The Ki-45s have very good flight performance and capabilities, especially for 2-engine heavy fighters / strike aircraft / interceptors / whatever these planes are at a given moment. The turn performance of the Ki-45s is good compared to many similar aircraft, though compared to other dedicated turn fighters, they lag a little bit behind. However, for an aircraft of this size, their turning capabilities are well above par. The speed is amazing for a Japanese plane of this rank, being able to outrun many fighters at its battle rating. Not only that, but the climb rate of the Ki-45 is simply sublime. Combined with the air spawn that the Ki-45 gets, something that I find to be almost comically overpowered, you can easily climb up to reach bombers and start every engagement you have against fighters with a massive energy and speed advantage. If you climb at the start of a match, the world will be your oyster in these planes. One of the things I find most incredible about the Ki-45 is how well it dives. In a dive, you can easily reach 500 kilometers per hour plus in terms of speed, something that many other planes of this rank could rarely if ever achieve in level flight. Not only that, the controls don't lock up at high speeds, really at all. If you don't know, many planes become much less controllable at higher speeds than they're designed to normally operate at. This typically occurs after longer dives at lower tiers or after long usage of afterburner at high tiers. However, the Ki-45 hardly suffers from this at all, allowing it to actually function and turn properly when it's at the 500 km per hour speed reached in a dive. Combine this with decent energy retention, and the Ki-45 can start nearly any engagement with a massive energy advantage, keep it, and utilize it to win nearly any fight you pick against a less maneuverable plane, and even occasionally against more maneuverable ones. However, the Ki-45 does have some downsides. Similarly to many other Japanese planes, it is incredibly fragile. When doing bomber intercepts, you will only be able to take 1 or 2 shots from gunners at most before burning up and falling down. The roll rate is relatively sluggish, so lining up shots can also be somewhat difficult. The engines are also very prone to overheating, meaning that you'll probably have to avoid the WEP unless you're on very cold maps. The Ki-45s all sport a 7.92mm Type 98 machine gun tail gunner with 1,050 rounds of ammunition. To put it bluntly, this tail gunner is useless. You'd be lucky to score anything more than a glancing blow with them. Please do not rely on them under any circumstances if you wish for your plane to remain intact. A few other notes that might be pertinent to gameplay. Despite some of the great cannons that can be found on certain Ki-45 variants, many of them struggle fighting the PBM bombers, as a hit to the main fuselage, even with the 37mm cannons, won't bring them down. You will still have to remember to focus your fire on the wings. Another thing to note is that the minimum fuel load for these planes is about 45 minutes. This severely hampers flight performance, and as we don't have a fuel dump mechanic as of this video, this is something you will simply have to live with. Landing is pretty simple. I won't show a clip of it, as you shouldn't have any issues, coming relatively slowly as the brakes aren't the greatest. The cockpits of the Ki-45s also leave a little bit to be desired. Remember, I really never play first person, so this is all a subjective view from somebody who has no idea what they're talking about. You sit a little bit low in the cockpit and have large wings and engines on either side of you. The rearward visibility is MIA. Overall, you really will only be able to see much forwards and up. The forward visibility is actually quite decent in this plane. The gun sight is, as always, several orders of magnitude better than that of the Kika. However, the actual armaments you will use make them rather useless in this aircraft. Alright, now that we've got the generals out of the way, we'll dig a bit more into each of the 4 variants. The variants differ primarily in the guns and bomb loads carried, but these slight differences dramatically change the planes. I'll try to figure out how to put the video chapters in so you can skip to whichever one you so desire. The Ki-45 Te is an interceptor at BR 1.7. This is the first Ki-45 which you will encounter, which in my opinion is not a great thing. Firstly, the armaments. The Ki-45 Te has an utterly massive 37mm Hull 203 cannon in its nose with 15 rounds of ammunition. It also has two 20mm Hull 5 cannons in Schräge Musik configurations with 200 rounds of ammo. Schräge Musik cannons point upwards in order to attack bombers while flying below them. They require a separate keybind found in Controls, Aircraft, Weaponry, Schräge Musik cannon activation. The Ki-45 Te can take any of the bombs of the Ki-45 family, that being two 50kg Army Type 94 GPHE bombs, two 100kg Army Type 94 GPHE bombs, or two 250kg Army Type 92 GPHE bombs. Always take the 250kg bombs if you have the choice. The Ki-45 Te is by and far the strangest of all the Ki-45s. The forward 37mm cannon will one-shot any plane at this BR. Except on bombers, I have yet to see it ever score a hit without instantly tearing an aircraft in two, making me assume that Gaijin has fixed the code so that if you ever get hit with it on most enemy planes, it will cause an insta-kill. However, the cannon only has 15 shots, and the shots themselves follow a very strange flight path. As such, you will either need completely blind opponents, or to be shooting at the largest bomber known to man to have a, quite literal, shot at scoring a hit. Even very skilled players would have a hard time making this cannon work for them. The Schräge Musik cannons similarly are very, well, schräg. They can only shoot upwards, and while they do have an aiming reticle, they are very hard to hit anything with. Unless a bomber is flying in a straight line above you, you really have no chance of hitting anything. The low ammo count also means that you can't spray and pray. While they can hit some insane unexpected shots in a turn fight and convince the one enemy that you hit that you were hacking due to hitting a 90-degree shot off the front of your plane, it would take a level of skill which I do not have to accomplish that. The Ki-45 Te only has its base skin, which is an interesting green and gray squiggly mess with white stripes where the Japanese emblem lies and bright blue, red, and yellow propellers. This makes for one of the strangest looking skins I've ever seen in the game. Honestly, I'd prefer not to look at this one too much more than I have to. Overall, this entire plane feels like a gimmick. The forward cannon is just funny in the event that you can ever hit a shot with it. The Schräge Musik cannons, similarly, are really only gimmicks that work in very rare and particular situations. It actually has a respectable bomb load, but that too feels out of place. Needless to say, the Ki-45 Te is a very hard plane to use at the best of times, but rather entertaining in its strangeness. Despite being the first Ki-45 you encounter, I actually recommend that you don't play this plane as a beginner, but do if you have more experience and just want to fly around with a wacky plane. I can best classify this plane as a high-skill, low-reward plane. Final verdict on the Ki-45 Te variant: it's a complete gimmick which can only be handled by someone with a good amount of skill. To any low-level player, it will only leave you confused and without any kills to speak of. It is truly a plane that can only hit trick shots. The Ki-45 Otsu is a strike aircraft at BR 2.3 folded under the Ki-45 Te. The Otsu modification sports a large 37mm Type 98 cannon with 16 rounds, as well as two 12.7mm Hull 103 machine guns with 700 rounds of ammo. It also can carry only the largest bomb load of the Ki-45 family, two 250kg bombs. The Ki-45 Otsu's massive 37mm cannon is not nearly as powerful as the Te's variant from what I found, but it is far more powerful than any other cannon you'll encounter on planes in the Japanese air attack tree. Similarly to the Te, you'll need a lot more luck than skill in hitting shots with its strange ballistics trajectory and very low ammo count. However, the machine guns on the Ki-45 Otsu are better than any seen before it in the Japanese air attack tree. This allows the Otsu to act as a fighter to a far better degree than the Te at the very least, though that is quite the low bar. Overall, the Ki-45 can do decent dogfighting with its MGs, decent ground strike with its bombs and large cannon, or possibly even bomber hunting with a 37mm cannon. The Ki-45 Otsu gets 3 skins. Its base is a scaly-looking green and brownish variant that looks decent. Its second color is a bicolor camo that gives it a similar squiggly look to the Te variant, if that tickled your fancy. Its third skin is the cleanest skin, having the standard Japanese dark green with white stripes. In my opinion, the third is the best, but any of them can look good. All are simply locked behind getting a certain number of kills in the Otsu, so you'll be able to get them all without any GE. Final verdict on the Ki-45 Otsu: it's a clear jack-of-all-trades, master of none of the Ki-45 line. It can perform just okay at anything that it needs to. This is your best choice if you're indecisive about what role you need it to play. The Ki-45 He is a strike aircraft situated at BR 2.3 folded under the Ki-45 Ko variant. As such, it will likely be the last Ki-45 you obtain. The He sports the massive 37mm Hull 203 cannon with 15 rounds of ammo, as well as a 20mm Hull 3 cannon with 100 rounds of ammunition. It can carry any of the bomb loads that the Ki-45 family has to offer, with the two 250kg bombs being the clear best. The 37mm cannon on the He is the same one as on the Te. It's a massive insta-kill shot with low ammo and very strange ballistics. The 20mm cannon it has can still tear apart aircraft and do some major damage to tanks, but it has lower damage than the 37mm cannon. Some planes will still survive a shot from the 20mm cannon at this BR. Something that you will definitely notice while flying the He is that the two cannons have very different flight paths. I found that you can sometimes be shooting at a target and find yourself in the situation where one shot will go over them and one shot will go under them. This is only worsened over distance and while turning. Not only that, but the very low rate of fire of both guns means that if a plane is turning, they are likely to simply fly between your shots. As such, shooting down aircraft in the He is nearly impossible. However, both cannons are very large and can do lots of damage to most tanks at this BR. I recommend setting both of your cannons to different keybinds if you can, so that you can line up one cannon shot on tanks, fire, change your aim, and fire the other. This is very tricky, but combined with the two 250kg bombs, tanks will come to fear you. The He also feels a fair bit heavier than the other Ki-45s while flying. It might just be my imagination, but I thought it pertinent to point out just in case. The Ki-45 He has a whopping 4 different paint jobs. The main paint job is a dark brown with the typical red and yellow accents. I can't personally say I'm too fond of it. The second is a splotchy paint job with a color scheme similar to the second camo on the Otsu variant. The third is the beautiful Japanese dark green camo similar to the third camo on the Otsu. The fourth is the most interesting of the four, being a USAAF camo, giving the Ki-45 an American paint job. I've always been biased towards the American paint jobs, and this one is just very unique, as you rarely ever see indigenous Japanese planes with standard American paint jobs in the Japanese air tech tree. It makes you feel like you're looking at an alternate history where the US and Japan were allies lend-leasing during World War II. Both this and the Japanese green are great camos. All camos are only locked by kill requirements, so once again, no GE required. A very important note on the Ki-45 Hei. For some reason, this plane, as well as its modifications, are far more expensive than the rest of the Ki-45s. I have no idea why, and it has made spading the Ki-45 Hei quite the chore. I really don't know why that is, and just wanted to warn you beforehand. Buying and spading the Hei will be much more of a slog than the other Ki-45s. Final verdict on the Ki-45 Hei. This is the clearest ground strike aircraft. With 2 heavy cannons and great bombs, this thing can terrorize the ground much better than it can the air. The Ki-45 Cole is an interceptor at BR 2.7 below the Tei variant in the tech tree. The Cole rejects its fellow Ki-45s by not having a massive 37mm tank gun. It sports a 20mm Hull 3 cannon with 100 rounds of ammo, and 2 12.7mm Hull 103 machine guns with 700 rounds of ammo. The Ko has no bombs that it can take with it. Plain and simple, the Ko is the best Ki-45 for fighting enemy aircraft. The cannon ballistics aren't too far off from those of the MGs, and the high fire rate of the MGs means that enemies can't fly between your shots. The Ko feels very light and exhibits the best flight characteristics of all the Ki-45 variants. As such, it can compete with most other planes at its BR. The way you should fly it is the standard air-to-air combat tactics you should practice with all the Ki-45s when taking them into air battles. Use the air spawn and your insane climb rate to get up high in the air. Then dive down on enemies and use your high speed combined with the lack of control lockup at high speeds to chase down targets. Then, either do some turn fighting before you bleed all of your speed, or climb back up. I think of it as a hybrid B and Z method. You can do typical B and Z fairly effectively, but you also can feel free to get sucked into some turn fights without too much worry, as the Ko is nimble enough with good enough firepower to hold its own. The Cole gets 2 paint jobs. The first is the default unpainted silver look. The second is the standard Japanese dark green camo. Both look great, and the dark green is also only locked behind kills, so no GE needed again. Overall, very clean skins. Final verdict on the Ki-45 Cole. It is the clear best dogfighter. Its CAS and bomber hunter abilities are inferior to the other Ki-45s, but it is one of the most fun and best performing Ki-45s in my opinion. It is a heavy fighter, and it plays that role very well. Let great excitement ensue. We made it through all 4 variants. Let's go through the finances, the modifications, and the final remarks, and then we can all be done with this extra length video. Firstly, the cost. We'll go through everything in the same order as the video segments. The Tei costs 2,900 RP to research, 700 SL to purchase, and 200 SL to slot, giving us a total of 900 SL to buy and slot. The Tei modifications cost a total of 2,975 RP to research and 885 SL to purchase. The Otsu costs 2,000 RP to research, 2,100 SL to purchase, and 600 SL to slot, bringing us up to a total of 2,700 SL to buy and slot. The Otsu modifications cost 4,400 RP to research and 2,685 SL in total to purchase. The Hei costs 3,000 RP to research and a massive 6,300 SL to purchase, along with 1,800 SL to slot, bringing it up to a total of 8,100 SL to buy and slot. The Hei modifications cost a similarly high 5,920 RP to research and 4,460 SL to purchase. The coal costs 4,000 RP to research, 2,100 SL to purchase, and 600 SL to slot, giving us a total of 2,700 SL to purchase and slot. The coal modifications cost 4,430 RP to research and 2,670 SL to purchase. Just take a look at how much more the hay costs. I simply don't understand it. The snail works in a mysterious way. Alright, on to my least favorite part, the modifications. A quick note for all Ki-45s, if you're having massive issues with the engines overheating, feel free to get the radiator at any time. It seems to help very little if any, but it can help a little bit. The Tay should focus on getting the fuselage repair, then the bombs if you want to do CAS stuff. If not, get the things that focus on turn performance like the wing repair and airframe. Once you get to rank 4 modifications, get the new 37mm cannon to make it possible to hit enemies with your main cannon. For the Otsu, get the fuselage repair, then the airframe, engine, and really just get all the flight performance mods first. If you want to do CAS stuff, get the bombs. This is the more versatile Ki-45, so pick up whatever you need as you go down the modifications. For the hay, get the fuselage repair and then rush the bombs. After that, get the offensive 20mm belts so you can get ground belts, and then get both the new 20 and 37mm cannons to increase their accuracy. As it's the best CAS Ki-45, focus on getting the biggest tank explosion shaped bang for your buck. After that, get any of the flight performance mods you so desire, working first on the turn performance mods as this one feels a little bit more sluggish than the rest. Finally, for the coal, get all the performance modifications first. After that, get the new offensive 12 and 20mm belts, and then the new MGs and cannons. I will note that I believe the best belt loadout is the air targets belt for the MG and the stealth belt for the cannons. This should increase the projectile speed of the cannons, bringing it closer to that of the MGs because of how belts in War Thunder work, and also maximizes the amount of HE shells, which is good for taking out light planes. However, I will note that you will barely get any tracers with this loadout, meaning that your aim will have to be excellent to capitalize on it. If your aim isn't as good, feel free to keep the cannons with their default belt as it's quite good already and has more tracer rounds. At long last, that is a fairly complete overview of all the Ki-45s in War Thunder. But wait, there's more! 4 later planes in the Japanese air tech tree are just effectively upgraded versions of the Ki-45. So if you haven't gotten enough Ki-45 in your life, I've got great news for you. I must admit, I had never really thought much of the Ki-45s, but now I actually find them to be quite a lot of fun. They have a unique playstyle which you really don't get anywhere else in the Japanese air tech tree. I hope you enjoyed or at least partially understood my breakdown of all the different variants and their use cases, or at the very least, found it to be useful. I'd be honored to see you next week where we'll be covering the Ki-21Da, the first actual bomber in the Japanese air tech tree. Sorry Ki-32, but that honor doesn't feel quite right going to you. Hopefully that video will be much shorter and posted before the heat death of the universe, unlike this one, which was the reason why I had a 2-month-long break between the B5N2 and D3A1 videos. Whether you're there or not, I thank you for tuning in today.